How's it going, fans? And once again, thank you for coming to Crunch Time. It's Yusuf Allah here with my boy Jack Barber. Say hi to the fans.
What's up, ladies and germs? We got a lot to cover tonight. I'm really excited. So let's get right into it.
And this is our first ever basketball edition on the podcast with you. And like I know you're a whiz at basketball, just like myself, Jack.
Indeed, indeed.
So
Not as really well versed in basketball as I am. Definitely, the NFL is definitely where I strive, but I am nothing short of opinionated when it comes to basketball, especially with my Nets. So we're gonna have a lot to talk about tonight.
speaking of your Nets, let's get to the first topic.
Let's do
Now,
it.
your Nets, I really like seeing them with the ability of having three Hall of Famers on the starting five. You have
Mhm.
Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving, with the additional of Joe Harris and DeAndre Jordan coming in as center. They're 41 and 20 starting right now after their win against the Phoenix Suns, I believe.
Yep, they
But
just beat him today.
actually, yeah, that was pretty surprising. But
Mhm.
I'm starting to feel like there's getting a little bit more like drama going into this team. Like they're not really meant as like a championship type team that I'm hearing. Like I'm seeing all the situations with Kyrie being well, he is Kyrie, like he's one of the best point guards, but he's having some I'm assuming mental issues, not gonna say it all all the time like that. But James Harden's looks like he's the only guy contributing, carrying the team. And Durant seems like he's starting to become more and more injury prone. You have any comments about that?
I do have a lot of comments about that. So first of all, with Kyrie, you can come out and say it. This dude is a freaking whack job. And I like Kyrie. I like his addition. I like the fact that he's playing for the Nets and I like the things that he's done for us so far, but I mean, that's just when he's on the floor and, he hasn't always been on the floor and that's the problem. So, I mean, last season after he got hurt and he was cleared to come back, he basically gave up on the team because his mindset and his mentality, and he said it. Like he knew they weren't like championship ready yet because Durant wasn't coming back in 2019 and into 2020. So I mean, and we hear all these things now, like with the COVID protocols with him. He had to take off 3 games because he attended a family birthday party. He's taking games off for personal issues. I'm not gonna judge Kyrie. I don't know what his home life is like, but I know for a fact this guy could have been playing more basketball games the past 2 years than he has. And I really think that he's been a bad influence on the rest of his team as far as KD goes. Because I mean, he and KD have a good friendship. We've seen it. These guys do IG lives together. They're always hanging out off the court. They have good laughs when they're sitting on the bench together. But I think KD's also thinking like, if Kyrie's not going to play, I'm not going to play. And that was more of like an early season narrative. Like nowadays, I think that they're comfortable getting on the floor and working. I've actually, I'll say this, over the past couple months or so, I've seen a lot of maturity in Kyrie. He's been playing more games than he has, but I think that if it wasn't for his early season antics and all that, I think that this team would be way better suited to get the first seed in the East than they are now. And James Harden, he's also been a little injury prone this season with the hamstring and everything that's going on with him. Because you see, when they're all three of them they've only played 7 games, all three of them together, and they've gone 5-2 in that stretch. This is a 70-win team that we're looking at right here. If they're all healthy and in the right mental state and all playing together, but I don't know if they can make it past the I don't know if they can make it past the Eastern Conference Finals if A, they're all not playing together, or B, they're just if they're in the right mind state. They just have to show up for the playoffs. And I think that this is a team that can win the NBA Finals if they all get on the same page.
Now, now Kyrie Irving only playing 44 games is averaging 27.1 points with 6.3 assists and 4.9 rebounds, as well as James Harden only playing 42 games but averaging 25 points with only 8 rebounds and 10 assists. I really feel like James Harden really is contributing to this team. where he needs to be, but their go-to star Durant only 24 games kind of brings like a huge issue to the fact of like, are we really seeing chinks in the armor of this super team that a lot of people feared and a lot of people kind of just hated that like they wind up making this super team after like what, a 2020 year COVID playoff tournament. You can agree with me with
I
that.
can agree with you on that, and I can see why a lot of fans of other teams are mad about that. But guess what? I'm a Nets fan, so I don't have to worry about that.
No.
I mean, but it's a good time for basketball in New York right now with everything going on with the Nets leading the Eastern Conference. The Knicks have won 9 straight games. They're even without the possibility of a play-in tournament, the Knicks are making the playoffs, and I think that the Knicks are looking like a team that could go into the Eastern Conference semifinals. They're not conference finals ready yet. With just having Julius Randle, who, don't get me wrong, Julius Randle is having his breakout year right now. RJ Barrett has been a good role player, but still, I think the Nets can bring a championship to Brooklyn based on 3 factors: if Durant stays healthy, if Harden stays healthy, and if Kyrie is just in the right mind state, if he's just not doing his general weird stuff that he's been doing for the past 2 years. But when playoff time comes, because Harden, we don't even know if Harden's going to play. Harden is still sitting on the bench with a hamstring injury right now. So
I know. Me and Matt were actually at that game when he got that hamstring injury.
That was the Knicks game you guys were at?
Next game.
Okay. Yeah. See, I was watching that at work, envying the fact that you were there.
But hey, man, it was kind of a shocker because we didn't even think he was injured. Like maybe this was just like maybe a potential, just like, hey, I'm just gonna play a few minutes and let the guys get their reps in, or like, hey, I'm waiting for Durant to come in and do his thing. It kind of seems like this whole powerhouse team is kind of just falling apart now. Honestly, in my opinion, like they have the tools to get where they need to go,
Mm.
but if this keeps going up, I can see them being like an early potential second round elimination. Like this can't happen.
See, I'm not going to say that you're not wrong. I think that the Eastern Conference has really come into its own this season. I mean, we've seen some guys fall, but like the Knicks are on the rise right now. The 76ers, Joel Embiid is having, an awesome season, and we'll get unbelievable. I know, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, I still don't see a lot of, because the Nets are a team that could compete for a championship still if they were competing in the Western Conference, which is, for the past almost 2 decades now has just been the epitome of basketball. But I mean, even without I think that we're talking about like this recent stretch of games where it's been kind of Katie and Kyrie carrying the load. Even then, they're still winning basketball games, and they've been winning basketball games over the past 10 or 20 games. When where Harden's been hurt, their last 10 games alone, I think they've gone. I'm actually pulling it up now. They've gone 6-4, which isn't great, but I mean that's 60% of their wins, or 60%, winning total over the past 10 games. I don't think they're in trouble. They'll definitely make it past the first round with the roster that they have at this current moment. They have a lot of great role players. I was really sad when Spencer Dinwiddie got hurt early on in the season, but I still think Joe Harris, shows up when he has to. I still see the Nets right now, the way that I look at it, this is a team that is definitely Eastern Conference Finals prepared. I don't know if they can win the Eastern Conference Finals. It's going to be tough. I think that right now they're in a position where they can win a full 7-game series if they have to go up against the 76ers.
Basically, like it all comes down to this in the East. Like, can you go and win 4 games against the 3-headed serpent that's KD, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving?
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of old powerhouses, the Golden State Warriors, how the mighty have fallen. They're sitting 10th in the Western Conference right now with a 30-30 record overall. Like with the blow to Klay Thompson is basically, is this like the over? Is this over? Like, are they looking for a rebuild or are they trying to go all in? What's your comments, Jack?
The time to go all in is past. Without KD on the Warriors, and that was the beginning of the end. Last season, we saw them physically implode, especially with Curry and Thompson being out. And unfortunately, I think because of his injuries over the past 2 years, I don't personally see I don't see Klay Thompson being in Golden State for more than 2 years. And I could be wrong on that, and that's a big thing to say. But he's just that injury that he got in Game 6 of the 2019 Finals. Like he can't get over that hump of coming back. I think he could do really good things if he kind of hit the reset button on his career, went to another team that could use his talents from the perimeter. But I mean, I think Curry's going to retire a Warrior. But I think it definitely is time for a rebuild in Oakland right now. I don't, or in San Francisco rather. I just don't see them going up until they just take their pieces, put them apart. Like Draymond Green's got to go. Like all these other guys, I think they have to rebuild around Curry, because at this point, Curry is still an MVP candidate, like player. He's playing, amazing basketball still. Like that stretch of like 15 games he just had, all the threes, all the 40-point games.
Phenomenal. Averaging 34 points right now with actually correction 31 points right now, and I'm assuming he has 45% up from the top of my head from three.
Yeah, like unbelievable. Like call this man Greg Jennings, because he's just putting the team on his back at this point. I mean, I think they'll make the play-in tournament. I don't know if they'll get out of it though. I think like a good season for the Warriors this year is just making the main playoffs.
I do agree. I do agree with that. I feel like with their addition of James Wiseman was also a major key to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I believe potentially maybe top 3, top 4 for rookie of the year. But he's basically a stepping stone for their future. Like they already agreed that Draymond's already on the market for any team that needs that veteran defender. And I'm just being honest, it's looking like he's starting to take that slight decline in his abilities on and off the court. And I feel with the injury of Klay for the second time, I feel like this isn't a team that a lot of people in the West are going to fear anymore.
I don't think anybody's fearing those guys in the West. Teams like the Suns, the Lakers, obviously, even I know that they have AD and Braun are hurt right now, but I still see both of those guys coming back and making a big push in the playoffs. There's just too many. There's always been too many good teams in the West. Like if you can't keep up in the West, then you're in trouble, because the West, like I said, that's the line for basketball, the Western Conference. The Warriors would be at this point a halfway decent Eastern Conference team if they were to play for them. But I just even like the Jazz, the Jazz have done amazing things this season. The Nuggets, even without Jamal, like even in a 7-game series, even without Jamal Murray, I could not see the Warriors beating the Nuggets in a 7-game series. There's just too much talent in the Western Conference. Like short, sweet, and to the point. Like they're competing at I want to say Grizzlies level right now of basketball, and that's not bad. Like these guys, I thought the roof was going to cave in after KD left, because obviously you can't be spending that much money every year, and you can't have dynasties in the NBA anymore. They got lucky to get what they got. What was it, 3
out of the 4 years from 2016 to I believe 2020 or 2019 against the Toronto Raptors was the last time the Warriors were in the finals. And out of those times they got 3 to 4 championships. I believe so.
And arguably they got one stolen from them in 2016. So
agreed.
Yeah, I mean that team faltered at the end, and I mean all credit to LeBron in that series. The block and everything that he did. LeBron went harder in a 7-game series than I think he's ever gone in a series in his entire life. But and same with Kyrie. But yeah, the Warriors dynasty, it's done. And I'm not saying that they can't come back. It's just they have smart management, And I think that they're going to make a push to maybe be one of those top 3 teams in the Western Conference again within maybe the next 5 years, but it's all going to be based on drafting, good free agencies. They have to like add some more youth to this team again, because I think that was the key to their success throughout that late 2010s run.
Now, I did like their one trade with when they got the addition of Andrew Wiggins. He is playing to his best ability right now. However, if they go, I'm putting 2 scenarios here. If they go the full rebuild, they do have that valuable Timberwolves, I believe, 2021 pick,
Mm-hmm.
which is a top 3 protected. And if it falls, of course, they're going to get it. And then not only that, you also have 3 potential Hall of Fame stars, maybe arguably maybe 2, with Draymond, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry. What would you do with them? Because I did hear rumors of LeBron trying to recruit Stephen Curry to the Lakers. This could be false. I mean, he also did that with AD. Remember in the All-Star break
Mm.
of why he wants them there. Now, in my opinion, if they're going in that full rebuild mode, I would start looking to see if I can get any future picks with that, any young stars, and really further develop this program, because they came out of the slumps from the 2000s all the way up to 2010, and it's time.
I think it's time as well. And you asked me what I would do with those 3. Obviously, I think Klay Thompson, like I want to believe that when he gets back on the floor and he has like full health, that he can still contribute to this team. It's the Splash Brothers. Like, I mean, and I know maybe that's living in the past, but he's still a young guy, like from, like in retrospect. So, but with Draymond, deal him as soon as you possibly can. No disrespect to him. He's had a great career in Golden State. But I think he's just, his value is going to go down the longer that you keep him, because like you said, he's kind of like on a downward spiral in his career. And not to say that he's still not, a productive piece of the team, but he's definitely a piece that you could trade. I think right now he's worth at least a late first round draft pick at this current point. So I definitely think maybe seeing if you can shop Draymond would definitely be a good idea. Klay Thompson, you know what? I just decided this now. Wait till he's healthy again, and then see what he can produce when he comes back. Because, look, we could talk all about, it's a big injury, and when he comes back, he might not be as productive. We all know what Klay Thompson's deal is. This dude goes to the perimeter, he dribbles the basketball maybe 5 times an entire game, and he still gets 30 points. So he doesn't have to do a lot. He's just got to get himself open. So I think keep Klay Thompson. Overall, keep the Splash Brothers. I think that that would be a huge marketing move by the Warriors, but dish Draymond.
Now,
Andrew,
here's the thing. Here's the thing with that. Here's my second theory. With them going all in for one last ride with the Splash Brothers, including Draymond or excluding him. Now, I did hear rumors of like Kawhi Leonard being unhappy with the Clippers. Now, don't get me wrong. They are number 3 in the West right now. And I feel like if they don't get past that second or third round in the conference finals, I feel like this would be the greatest time for him to just leave. They already paid PG3 to like a 4-year Supermax deal, which is kind of just absurd to me, because I feel like he still has to prove a lot of things before he's earned that money. And basically the roster is kind of banged up. Like they don't really have much to go with, involves with trades to make the team better, or potentially even going deeper into the playoffs. Now, do you see Kawhi Leonard? This is the rumor now. Now, do you see Kawhi Leonard going to the Warriors and making them this championship team once again?
I'll be totally honest with you. I wasn't even aware of that rumor going on, but I can understand why there's some frustration in LA on the Clippers side. I mean, after last year was such a disappointment for them because they were projected to at least compete for the Western Conference title. And the very least, it was supposed to be an LA versus LA thing, and it never panned out for them. And they got put on their ass. I'm just going to say it, simply like that. And it was it was unfortunate because I'd rather see the Clippers make the NBA Finals on a personal note than the Lakers. I'm not as big as a fan of LeBron as I used to be. I love Miami LeBron. I haven't been a fan of, and I even like the second stint in Cleveland. I haven't been a huge fan of his since he left Cleveland. But getting back on topic, if the Clippers don't at least make the Western Conference Finals, then I realistically can see Kawhi Leonard maybe shopping other options, maybe even going to the Warriors. I think if he went there with Thompson, Curry, I feel like one of those two guys would have to be involved in a trade if that was going to happen. Like one of them would go to the Clippers.
I believe that Minnesota pick would be the hugest thing that they would do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe it's also like on a option for a 1-year option where he can play in or play out.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I like the Clippers. I just, in today's NBA, like super teams, I don't think the super team era is ever going to go away. At this point, like, I mean, look, PG-13 and Kawhi Leonard, like that's a team that could have won the NBA Finals maybe in like 2006. But and I mean, they're two all-star play. Like I don't like look, they were two faces of their own franchises before they came to the Clippers. PG-13, but like you think about it though, like like Paul George, those Pacers days are getting farther and farther behind him as time goes on. He's gonna get older. Kawhi Leonard, I'm not doubting his ability at all, but they need, I think, one more piece on that team if they're going to compete for the Western Conference Finals. Because I'm honestly amazed that LeBron, like that's just giving credit to LeBron and AD, because everybody's always been saying, it's two top 5 players on the same team. Like who's going to stop them? And I understand that, but at the same time, the Western Conference has to step up even. LeBron's not going away. And I remember you and me were talking about this 5 years ago. We don't think he's going to retire until Bronny at least plays 1 year in the NBA. So, I don't see the Clippers competing until like a serious change is made to that organization. And if not, Kawhi is going to get frustrated, or maybe Paul George as well, and they're both gonna pack their bags and head out.
Now for our viewers, I have one question for you. Please leave in the comments below. Should the Warriors rebuild, or should they go all in after this year? Please put your comments in the comment section below.
Love to hear from you guys.
Continuing on, the Charlotte Hornets with LaMelo Ball returning from his wrist injury. Now, do you see themselves potentially becoming a new franchise for the East, or is this just a one-man band with LaMelo Ball?
Well, you know what? That's the thing, isn't it? I think that there is a lot of marketability to the Charlotte Hornets, like from LaMelo, and we can go all the way down to that guy who's on like Fox Sports, like Charlotte or whatever, their announcer. Like, there's just so many marketable things about Charlotte right now. I think a lot of guys who are coming in and a lot of other players, I think they see the potential that LaMelo Ball has, because think about it, he's probably in front for Rookie of the Year right now. I've watched his highlights. I've loved the things that he's done this season. And the fact that he's coming back from this wrist injury, when maybe a month ago, we got the news like, oh, he's going to be out for the year. I was smiling, and I don't really smile on my own that often. I got to be around some people, like when you're reading something off your phone, but I was just chilling in Dick's Sporting Goods. I got the notification that he was coming back and that he got a misread on his MRI. And I was just so happy because I loved watching him play basketball. He's got such a smooth flow to his game. I think that the Charlotte Hornets in the next 5 years, I think that they could be a team to watch out for in the Eastern Conference.
They are saying he's showing resemblance of like borderline Showtime Lakers. Like a lot of people saying like the Warriors may have messed up with that pick getting Wiseman instead of LaMelo, even though Wiseman's still having a great first year. I feel like LaMelo would have turned a lot of heads in the right system, and
he could have been useful in years, like post LeBron. So I absolutely, I don't think it was wise on the Lakers' part. But yeah, well, also I don't know when this happened, but I don't know if you saw the social media post. It was a while ago. I think he was getting interviewed. LaMelo said that he doesn't respect LeBron
Really?
Um, I saw this maybe a month ago, and I remember LaMelo when they played their first game against the Lakers. Obviously, LeBron did not take too kindly to that. Um, Posterized him, posted it on his Twitter, which I think was extremely petty. But hey, it's LeBron. Um, but like it. Yeah, I mean, I think that the Charlotte Hornets, like that was probably the best draft pick I think that the Charlotte Hornets have made, arguably since Michael Jordan, bought the franchise. So I really think LaMelo Ball is going to be a superstar in the NBA, and excellent drafting on the Hornets' part.
Especially with the contributors he has and Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, I
Mm.
believe TJ PJ Tucker.
TJ Warren,
Oh, TJ
right?
Warren.
Yeah,
Correction.
TJ Warren.
Apologies, but
It's all good.
I feel like with that team is a really really great young core. I feel like personally they're maybe one or two away from being a real threat in the Eastern Conference.
I think two more so than one, but I agree with you. Yeah. I
Now,
think that if they got one more piece, I think that they could be a threat for the conference. If they got two more big threats on that team, then we're talking potential finals right there.
Now they would have to prove it by getting into the playoffs, but I feel like with the team that they have, they should be all right. I believe the last time I saw them, they were placed either eighth.
They're
If
eighth right now. They're 30-30.
yeah, the East gets crazy because it's so much of an even playing field.
Mm.
Now, going into that, let's talk about the new playoffs for the NBA.
Mm.
I believe it's called the NBA Play-In Tournament.
Mm-hmm. Very,
Now,
very college-esque of
yes.
them.
Now with the play-in tournament, from what my understanding from Bleacher Report and all the reports are saying, is the top the six no not the six is good. Seventh, eighth, ninth, and 10th will be playing in a play-in tournament for the seventh and eighth spot.
Mm.
Whoever wins that seventh and eighth game goes on to be that seventh seed. And the loser of that game goes against the winner of the 9th and 10th game to take that eighth seed spot.
Right.
Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like that's a really really good idea, but I feel like they're kind of pushing a lot into trying to get more and more type of money to get their young stars into the playoffs quickly. Any comments on that?
Well, I mean, what do you mean exactly? Like as far as the money goes?
So, I believe right now a lot of people, of course, I was one of them that was criticizing the first time they were trying to implement it, like, oh, they're just trying to get Zion into the playoffs, or oh, they're just trying to get Trey Young to get in the playoffs, so they have more and more money into their playoffs for that year. But I feel like looking at it now and looking at it a little bit more, I feel like this is good for all those potential teams to get a chance to get into the playoffs, especially some that tie into the records, and then ties are basically valued by how many wins you got against that single opponent, even though you know you're the better squad. And
Mm.
some of those teams are also riddled with injuries as well, where that could be the possibility. Now, don't in my opinion, the play-in tournament could be pretty good, but I feel like this is like a trial and error type of situation to see how it goes, especially going with the East where it's maybe one game, if not two games away from everybody just being the exact same record. Like, how do you what do you think?
I mean, I can understand that, and I also agree. I think that this is a really good thing for the NBA. I don't know if it's going to be like a temporary like placement because are they? I don't know. Are they doing 70 games a year like every year now? Like, is this like has COVID been the catalyst for this to become like a permanent thing?
I believe so. With COVID, it goes for maybe seven. I think they were going from like what 78 games, no 82 games to
82
72.
games, yeah.
Where, in my personal opinion, you remember this back in, I believe, 2010, 2011, when they only went 64 games. I
Mm.
feel like even doing that would be better. But this is more of just like the idea of more of a market move where they're trying to get as much money as possible because there's nothing to watch. Believe me, around
The May and June time, like summertime,
Yeah,
especially.
especially.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a dark point for sports. Absolutely. When all that's really on during the summer is like golf, tennis, and NASCAR. Like those are the three like least popular sports in
Don't,
America.
don't forget about baseball.
And
Baseball is up
baseball.
there.
But baseball, I thought, is always dragged on, like 162 games. It gets ridiculous. But I think it is a good move for the league from a marketing standpoint. Um, I think it helps bring a lot of pride to like some of those franchises that maybe are like sitting in the ninth or 10th seed that are like just that like are right there but they don't have a shot. Like I think it'll help with like ticket sales, obviously jersey sales, all these things, because there's a bit more pride having like even a 9 or 10 seed. It's like, oh well, we still made the playoffs. So I mean, I agree with it overall. And I actually wanted to talk about this with you. I was thinking about this today. So as it stands, if the playoffs started today,
Mhm.
in the Eastern Conference, the two games we would see, or the two series we would see, in the play-in tournament would be the Heat going up against the Wizards, the 7 versus 10, and we'd have the Hornets going up against the Pacers, in the 8 versus 9. Western Conference, we got the Blazers going up against the Warriors, and the Grizzlies going up against the Spurs. All four of those, especially the Western Conference matchups, sound extremely interesting to me. So I want to get your opinion. If we
Now,
were to
go ahead.
if we were to do like a prediction right now, let's just say that the playoffs just started. Who do you think is winning first that Heat Washington series?
Heat Washington. Well, I'm gonna have to go with the Miami Heat. Now, a lot of people say like, "Oh, this is just a fluke. Like that was just a one-hit wonder when they went to the finals, and Jimmy Butler basically played out of his mind, but just
I
got
don't and I don't blame people for saying that either, based on their roster.
and just gotten overwhelmed by the power of AD and LeBron. He did, but in my opinion, with the addition of Oladipo, I feel like now like they're trying to get that connection, that team chemistry, because they had a little bit of drama. I'm hearing that what their rookie, I believe it's not Luke Kennard, but I can't think of their guy that shoots threes now, but
See, you're coming out of my realm. We're talking about like Heat, like rookies on the Heat. I could not tell you who you're talking about, but yeah.
But anyway, I'm hearing like rumors, like it's gonna come to my head, but I'm hearing rumors that he was acting more of like a regular celebrity than just an athlete where he was
Mm.
paid to be. Tyler Hero. Jesus,
Tyler Hero.
I don't know why they couldn't think of it before. Tyler
Okay.
Hero, I believe he's like more into the consideration, almost like a Juju situation where he's trying to figure out his like TikTok fans and
Yeah, just he's trying to
getting
be more of a
brand.
social media conglomerate than he is a player.
Yeah, and he's trying to produce more of a brand, which is understandable. But I
Mm.
feel like he's getting away from his actual like athletic ability and his purpose on that team, where it's kind of making the Miami Heat turn some heads. Now, don't get me wrong, Washington could pull the upset out of nowhere, especially with John Wall coming back from injury, and he
Oh,
won't.
no, John Wall's on the Rockets now.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
that's that's when you know like
it's been
I
a
lost.
minute.
It's been a minute with Washington, man. I haven't seen, but oh, Russell Westbrook and Bradley Bill. Personally, I feel that team together could make something happen, but I just feel like with the grit and grind of the Miami Heat is going to prevail, and Miami Heat is going to take that win.
See, I'm gonna disagree with you there because as much as I like the Heat, and I do agree with you on Tyler Hero, and the steps that he's taking towards not really being the best player that he can be. I mean, look, if Jack Harlow made a song based like with my name in it, I'd get pretty full of myself too. So I'm a fan of Tyler Hero. I loved watching him in the bubble. He did great things in the bubble, against like the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. But
Don't forget, Bam Adebayo was also hurt, so
That's true. So I mean, I like Bam Adebayo as well. I like the culture that the Heat have built. I think it, but like it's hard. it's hard not to want to, like act like a superstar off the court when, when you're in one of the, arguably like most fun cities in America. Like if you're playing for Miami, I mean, come on, man, it's Miami. Like what are you going to do if you're Tyler Hero? But I mean, I think that he has to kind of get back to his fundamentals because this team isn't going to win. They're not even going to sniff the second round of the main playoffs unless they all kind of come together and act like play more team basketball like they were last season.
Now, wouldn't you think that with the combo of Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, now don't get me wrong, they are good together. Well, somewhat. I mean, the record doesn't show, but don't you have like that feeling that Westbrook is kind of just thinking of like his MVP year, that's like I gotta prove myself, like I'm gonna do some hero ball on top of this. Like, are you think this is just gonna get to his head, or is this just gonna be another day in the office where they could get this W, but off of Bradley Beal, not Russell Westbrook?
I think the problem with Westbrook is that he listens to his critics too much. And you can see it when he plays too. I mean, there's a lot of like mechanics that a guy at his position needs to work on. He's never been a great 3-point shooter. He's always been a decent mid-range shooter, and he's a great finisher for a point guard, but he's never really taken that next step towards being. I mean, I know he won MVP in what was it, 2016, 2015, when he got like 40, 41 triple doubles. But Bradley Beal is a superstar on that team. And I almost felt for Bradley Beal because they had such a rough start to the season, but he was just playing lights out MVP candidate basketball. So that's why I think that the Wizards will get it together. I think that even by the time the playoffs start, they might even have a higher seed than they do right now. I can see them maybe creeping into the 9th or 10th seed by the time the play-in tournament starts. As far as either one of those teams making it to making it past the first round of the actual playoffs, I can kind of see the Wizards pulling. I mean, actually, what am I saying? Because whoever wins that tournament is going to get fed to either the Nets or the Sixers. So, or the Bucks, because the Bucks are quietly like in a solid place at third position. They're only like 2 games back right now. So, in like a weird turn of events, the Bucks could end up being the first seed in the East. But either way, no matter who wins, they're just getting fed to their reward is just going to be getting fed to a lion.
That's true. Now a little correction on you on the teams going against each other in the play-in tournament. It would be the 7th place seed going against the 8th place seed, as well as the 9th place going against 10th place. So
Okay.
it would be the Wizards playing against the Pacers, and whoever wins that goes against the winner of the Heat versus Hornets.
Okay, see that is my mistake because I always thought like if you're a higher seed, even in a play-in tournament, you get rewarded by playing, like they're the highest seed in like the play-in area right now. And you'd think that they would get rewarded by playing Washington, who's sitting at 10th. But all right, I see that. So then let's reset it real quick. So then I would see. I think that Miami can do it against Charlotte. I think Miami can beat Charlotte right now. I like LaMelo Ball, and I see it maybe being like a 6-game series. But I think, like you said, I think that the Heat are still too good of a team to get bounced out in the play-in tournament. Now, against Washington, maybe Washington could have pulled out the upset in that series.
I can see Washington overcoming the Pacers because the Pacers are kind of a little dismantled on their role players, on their like star player as well.
Oh, they don't have an identity. I don't like. I mean, they have Sabonis, but I mean, after the Oladipo trade, I'm surprised they're still competing for a play-in tournament spot right now. Mm-hmm. So I kind of forgot the Pacers existed for a while, to be honest. So I mean, I don't think the Pacers are making it out of the play-in tournament, though. Absolutely not.
But at least this little mix-up goes into our situation. I still say the Heat wind up taking the 7th spot, and the 8th spot I believe is going to go to Washington. So both of them will make the playoffs. It's just a matter of who's taking what spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So then in the Western Conference, we would have the 7th seed Trailblazers against the 8th seed Grizzlies. I would still personally see the Blazers with Lillard and, all the pieces they have, around him. They're 32-28. And I mean, like in the Eastern Conference, that would get them like around the 5th or 6th seed. Like they wouldn't even be in the play-in tournament if they were playing in the Eastern Conference. So, I mean, that just goes to show like how powerful the Western Conference is. So I see the Blazers taking that series.
Now, going off of that, I do agree. Trailblazers will go against the Grizzlies and win and overcome that because the Grizzlies are still a young team. They're trying to build around John Morant, and John Morant is playing some phenomenal basketball. But I feel like he's just not enough to creep them into the playoffs just yet.
No,
Now, viewers don't burn me at the stake now. They're like that one person away to where they can finally get playoff contention. But for the 9th and 10th game, I believe that's the Spurs against the Warriors. I feel like Curry's just playing out of his mind at this point. Like he's trying to make sure his team gets to that playoff spot yet again.
I think that they will. I think they'll win that series, or if it's a sudden death, I think that the Warriors will take that game or that series rather.
It's a one and done.
It's a one and done. All right, yeah, I can definitely then see, unless it's some kind of a fluke. I mean, I like the Spurs. I like Popovich, but they just don't have any real pieces over there right now. I think they're kind of. It's weird. They don't want to admit that they need a rebuild. The Spurs do. Because I mean they don't really have. I mean they have a young team, but they need a superstar player to come over there. And I don't even think that like if you want to draft them, that's fine, but that's going to take too much time. I think that Popovich needs to make an uncharacteristic move and get a star player in free agency.
But who would you get? Because like a lot of people don't really like the Spurs system because it's more of just fundamental basketball, which
it's like a European team. They play team basketball,
which isn't bad at all, which is never bad at all. But you also got to realize like we're in that era where a lot of people are into more of like the flashy passes, the dunks, the posterizers, the crossovers. And a lot of people kind of forget like the Spurs, they're not really all flashy. They just get the work and get it done. So if any case, somehow, some way, I'm gonna throw a little curveball. Let's say the Pelicans somehow, some way, get one more win to get over the Warriors. Where do you see this going for the last two spots for the Western Conference?
Oh, that's tough. See, because I agree with you. I like the Spurs system and the team basketball, but they don't have the talent over. Like, I mean, you can play as good team basketball as you want. If you don't have talented players playing that brand of basketball, it's still not going to work. So, it's also tough though because I like Zion and I really hope he has a good career in New Orleans or wherever he ends up by the time that he retires. But the Pelicans they haven't really done much. I think that the Pelicans are still kind of in a rebuild mentality at their current state. Zion's just the centerfold of this rebuild. So that's a really tough game to call. And that would probably, out of all 4 play-in games, would probably be the most intriguing to watch. But at the end of the day, I would have to go San Antonio. Just because of their brand of basketball. And I mean, they do have chemistry, which is what's working in their favor. So yeah, I think with the Spurs system, Zion just needs another piece or two for, the Pelicans to be a threat in the Western Conference. So for now, it's kind of a waste, but I think the Spurs are going to win that.
All right. So if it was the Warriors, you would pick the Warriors. But if you think the Pelicans somehow miraculously come back and get that last spot, you believe the Spurs. Understandable. Viewers in the comments below, please put who you believe is going to be the last 2 teams for each conference. And now let's get to the bread and butter. Your top 5 MVP candidates, Jack. Who do you think is going to take it? Who do you think is going to decline?
Well, at this point, it's a 2-man race. And it's between, the Joker, Nikola Jokic, and Joel Embiid. Everybody knows that. It's going to be one of those 2. I'll talk about the top 5 and because there are guys who I think should get more consideration, but this is based off of league politics. Because I think that in the NBA, more so than other leagues, I think that the MVP area is really, like a politically driven award. But I see Jokic. I see Jokic winning the MVP award. Just because, I mean, it's even after, like, especially after the injury to Jamal Murray, like this guy's been playing amazing basketball this season. The league kind of wants him to win it. I mean, I think Joel Embiid makes a little bit more sense from like an individual statistics standpoint, but Jokic, he combines, playing, a great brand of individual basketball with like, I think there's more of like a collectivism, a collectivist like a style of team playing on the Spurs or on the Nuggets. So, I mean, he's been carrying the load since Murray's gone. I think that he's only going to get better as he realizes that he has to put the team on his back, especially come playoff time. So I see Jokic winning the award, and obviously second would be Joel Embiid, because he said before the season started in an interview, he said, "I am the best player in basketball." And I was like, "Are you stupid? Like, are you kidding me? Like, there's so many other guys who are ahead of you right now. No disrespect to him. He's the best center in the end. He's one of the best centers in the NBA, maybe the best. But there's other guys at other positions who I definitely thought coming into the season would have been my top candidates. I wouldn't have even put Embiid in my top five, if we were to have done a show at the start of the season. But he's impressed me. I think he's earned it. And I think personally, if I personally were to decide who would win the MVP award this season, definitely would have been Embiid. But the third guy who would have been my second pick is, I think Jokic is going to win it. And I think he's in the top three in my mind for who should win it. But at the third spot, who the NBA would probably say, and number two, who I would pick, Steph Curry, just based off of his recent string of games. He's just been he has been putting the team on his back. If they're going to go to the playoffs, and if they're even going to go to the play-in tournament, it's going to be completely off of his merit. And I don't think anybody else is. Maybe, who was the rookie again that they got?
James Wiseman.
James Wiseman. He's been helpful. I still think, like, I've watched some of his highlights. I think he's still coming into his role in the Warriors. So Steph Curry's been carrying this team. He's been doing a great job at doing that. And just based off of his recent string of games, he kind of forced himself into the conversation. So he's still he's what, 33 now, and he's still producing at a, like a great level. So Steph Curry absolutely would be my number two. Number four, we're getting into guys who, kind of, I wouldn't even consider. What was that?
Are basically like right there, but like in certain situations need to go.
Yeah, like they're right there, but I wouldn't pick them winning the MVP candidate. Like that top three are the three guys who I think deserve it the most. Number four, though, I'm gonna say Giannis Antetokounmpo, just because he's been doing what he's been doing, all season long, what he's been doing for the past 3 seasons. Like, I mean, he's won back-to-back MVPs. He's still producing at that high level. He's the Greek freak. Dude goes in there, gets the job done every night without a lot of like super great like other pieces on that team. Not to diss the Bucks at all, but I don't think they've done Antetokounmpo justice getting him better pieces around that team. And I think that's everybody's like, oh, why don't they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals every year? Why don't they make it to the NBA Finals every year? It's because they're not building around Antetokounmpo. This isn't a one-man league anymore, and it really never has been. So they need a better, like second star. Then is Chris Middleton still there? Is he the guy who's like backing him up over there?
I know Drew Holiday is also there. Chris Middleton, I believe, is also still there.
Okay, yeah, like Chris Middleton's always been the number 2 on that team. He's just, and like I like Drew Holiday too, but he's more of a role playing point guard than anything. So I mean, they got good role players, but they need another superstar. If there's another superstar in Milwaukee, possible finals, possible NBA championship.
All right. That sounds good. That sounds good.
And number 5, Dame Lillard, just because, he's been scoring. I don't really have a lot to say about him. Like who else are you going to pick for a 5th,
LeBron James when he comes
yeah, LeBron, but I think the injuries have hurt him over this like last stretch of the season. I think you have to play like a certain amount of games really to kind of be thought of as a potential MVP candidate. And I would say Bradley Beal, but I don't think his team as a whole has done well enough to really do him justice in his potential MVP bid. So I'd say Lillard.
All right, viewers in the comment section below, you know what to do. Your top
Mhm.
5 MVP candidates and your opinions why.
Hurt me right here, please. I want to hear it.
We got what we heard from the mighty Jack Barber. So
Now, I'm curious to know, who are your top 5 MVP candidates if you got them?
now my top 5, well, of course, I'm gonna throw a little curveballs here and there, but of course, number 1 has to be the Joker himself. Like, he's just playing phenomenal basketball. Like, it's pretty much proven, like, his team, quote unquote, is probably the best and most fit to basically go deep into this draft. I mean, not draft,
Mm.
the playoffs.
Mm.
Got the NFL in the mind. But anyway, but my number 2, of course, I also gotta agree with you, is also going to be Joel Embiid. He's bringing life back to the Sixers as well. He's making that Ben Simmons combination with him as well going forward. Pretty much work in its own accord.
They're definitely at the peak of their chemistry right now. You can feel it in Philadelphia.
But now with the number 3, my mistake, Luka Doncic. Like, no one's really talking about this dude. He's averaging 28.7 points a game, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. I'm like, he's the next up and coming star besides Zion. And of course, his Mavs are having a little bit issues of injuries here and there, especially with his co-star Kristaps Porzingis mixing a few games. I really feel like if everything was going together, they would be a guaranteed top 3 in the West right now. Now, number 4, of course, this is my curveball. I gotta go with James Harden here. Like, don't
Okay.
get me wrong. Like, of course, you're gonna be like, Yusuf, that's absurd. James Harden's not really doing anything.
I don't think it's absurd. I don't think it's absurd, and I'll explain after you give your reasoning.
Like, a lot of people don't give James Harden a lot of credit. Like, he went from being the street baller we know and love, getting buckets no matter what, to really contributing to this three-headed snake in the Brooklyn. And I witnessed it firsthand a couple of times when they let people in during the COVID games. And he's basically a changed player. Like, he's playing back to his OKC type days, but just a little better, lot more seasoned. And he's also that James Harden that we know and love. Like, if they need him to go off, he'll go off. But if they need him to do something else, he's just going to contribute because he wants to win. That's basically his main priority, is to win. And of course, for 5th, uh, I really like this, but I think Chris Paul should be in this conversation a lot.
He deserves a lot. He definitely
Honestly,
does.
this man's been a journeyman, but he came into a really broken Phoenix Suns team and just 180 the entire team. And they're working like they're ready to take on fucking anything. And
I knew when Chris Paul went to the Suns that this was going to be a force to be reckoned with in the West, because the thing about Chris Paul, you don't really think at this, like, if we were talking about this back in like 2012 and saying, oh, Chris Paul is on the Suns, like, oh, how bad are they this season? This dude's still putting up all-star numbers. And and you can look at it this last season. I loved what he did for the Thunder last year. I didn't think the Thunder had a shot in the dark of making the playoffs, even with Chris Paul. I'm like, okay, well, Westbrook. It's like I'm like, really? You got rid of Westbrook for Paul? Like, that's extremely lopsided. Like, this is an old man, and this is a guy who's just like maybe just coming off of his prime, but still producing at high numbers. And look how it turned out. Russell Westbrook is in the dark days. He's like this. These are probably the darkest days he's had in his career to this point, playing in Washington.
agreed.
After all the dust settled there, after he got traded to Houston, that didn't work out. Now he's in Washington, and that's still not working out. Everywhere Chris Paul goes, he fixes the team that he plays for. So definitely a lot of respect to Chris Paul. So I do respect your picks, and I'm a little mad because I did forget about Doncic. He probably would be in my top 5 too. Put him over Lillard, definitely. In my picks, like, they have been struggling with injuries this season.
Oh, will
So
Portland fans be pissed at you that you just did that?
whatever, man. You know what? I think that Lillard should have won maybe 2 years ago. In that season where he hit that huge playoff shot over Paul George. But I I j- I don't know. I just don't think Lillard's ever going to win MVP. And that's not like hating on him. I just think there's too many other guys out there with too much talent for him to really overcome. I don't think he's ever going to win an NBA title. I don't think he's ever even going to win the Western Conference Finals because the Blazers just haven't done a good enough job of building around him. He's been there for almost a decade and they really haven't done nearly as much as they should have at this point. They made one Western Conference Finals when they played against, the Warriors in like the twilight of the dynasty for the Warriors. So I think that was probably Portland's best shot at doing anything. I think the time is kind of running out over in Oregon.
That's true. I mean, you're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong about that. It's only dollar or dollar. Was it the Dollar Dame's time or whatever? I can't.
Dollar Dame,
Yeah, Dollar Dame.
bad SoundCloud rapper. That I will give my opinion on. I am not a fan of his music at all.
Shoot, Portland fans are ready to burn us at
That's
the
okay.
stake.
That's okay. There's so few of them.
But
Real ones anyway, like guys who were there before Lillard. So
that is true. That is very true. But anyway, viewers, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our first ever basketball edition for Crunch Time. I'm your host Yusuf with your boy Jack Barber. We'll talk to you guys and see you soon.
see y'all later.